there, and he comes up to me and he's like, "What? We got a little spice. You want some?" I'm like, no. And he's just sitting there, you know, and he looks tweaked out of his mind. And he started he was visibly upset when I said no. And it took his buddy. It's like, oh, no. He doesn't do that. It's nothing personal. For him to walk away, but from that moment on, it just looked like he wanted to punch me in the face. I don't even know what that stuff does.
It's not good.
I can't imagine if he was acting like that.
It's chemicals. Put on like a medium.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
All right. So now we got the open. So 30 seconds.
Can you hear?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hear the radio show?
Yeah. So let me.
I've had advice given to
You should be able to hear your voice pretty good through your thing. These microphones pick up pretty good. Say good morning to Facebook.
Good morning, Facebook.
They offer solutions.
All right, 15.
That's
Okay.
what I was looking for. Recovery Talk helped.
Have a problem?
10.
Know someone who does? Call us. 828
5, 4, 3,
This is
2.
Recovery Talk on WATA.
Good morning. Welcome to Recovery Talk. I'm your host, Jim Quigley. This morning, Recovery Talk is brought to you by Freedom Auto Tech. Freedom Auto Tech is the newest auto shop here in town. Their number is 828-355-4434. That's 828-355-4434. If you have a check engine light on, something's rattling under the hood, give them a call. They'll put you on the schedule. They'd love to work it out for you. If you want to be a part of the show today, you can call in 828-262-1567. You can call in and we can answer any kind of questions you may have, or you just want to call in with an encouraging word. Just want to kind of, on that note, I've been getting a lot of feedback on Facebook. For those of you that are in the listening audience watching right now on Facebook, keep passing out the videos. Keep sharing it with your friends. We're starting to get a little bit of an audience as far as in further away from here in other states, and it's been really nice, really good. Hopefully, I'm gonna have some guests lined up. I've already gotten people that want to get on the schedule. Today we have my friend Clay Williams with us. Say good morning, Clay.
Good morning, everybody.
Clay has been here in the high country for how many years now?
Let's see, it's going on 3.
Going on 3 years.
Yeah.
And he's got a great story of recovery and hope for those of you that are watching and listening today. Clay brought with him some pretty awesome weather today.
I'd like to think I just came back from vacation from Florida, so I brought a little bit back with a little bit of the coolness and less humidity.
What was it, 54 this morning?
53 when I left my house.
Yeah. So jeans and jeans on today, and you feel comfortable, you're not sweating. So,
That's right.
Clay, let's get into your story. We talked a little bit before the show this morning. Just for everybody to know, Clay and I, we know each other, but we probably don't know each other that well. You know, what happens when you're in the recovery community, you start running into people that are in the recovery community. We both came to the high country. We both got sober up here, but in different paths. And you know, that's a great way. It's great for this show, because part of this show is that I'm just trying to get people to be sharing their stories, because I think one of the downfalls of recovery is that people get in this one program is going to get you sober, or this one treatment thing is going to get you sober. And you know what, man? You and I share the one reason why we are sober, and that's Christ. But you know, there's if people would just be a little more open-minded that like different things are working for different people, I think that there'd be a lot more recovery going on and happening. I did say before the show I was going to share this, but the latest statistics are out for 2017. I thought they didn't come out till November, but they said these are the preliminary numbers. And if any of you guys are paying attention to the news, 72,000 people in 2017 died from a drug overdose. That's an up of 8,000 from 2016. Just to put in perspective, in 1999, 12,000 people died from overdose. And so that number has climbed to 72,000 people in 2017. And another way to get perspective on that is I read the article I read. If you combine the Vietnam War and the Iraq War together, more people died in 1 year in our country now from substance abuse.
Heartbreaking.
Heartbreaking. But there is hope, there is recovery, and we have Clay here to share a little bit of the story. So Clay, take us back, man. What was life like for you in your bondage?
Well, I just a quick little, grew up being taken to church. My family's been divorced and gone separate ways, but I never didn't experience love. But I went in the wrong direction, and a lot of mine, I just started drinking earlier at a very young age, and it just filtered into different avenues, getting mixed up with different people. But it really, as much as I got into as far as drugs, I could walk away from different things. It was, alcohol is what had me just wrapped in its grip, and but that led me down some dark paths that got me into dealing drugs, manufacturing drugs, running from cops, living that life. And it was just I look back on it now, and you woke up every time you woke up out of whatever put you to sleep the night before, it was anxiety and nerves, and just so you had to start. I had to start over what I was doing before I went down, and it was just it was a wreck. I lost. I was on the verge of giving up parental rights to 2 children I have by one of my 3 marriages, and it was my only 2 children. But I mean, it sent me to where I was willing to give up family. I was willing to give up my own children, the right to be a father to my own children. I know you just had a child, and I see stuff like that, and I think back to that, and how you wonder how did I get that low?
Yeah.
How did I ever get to that place? And like you had mentioned before, just going to so many different avenues, and I've done it over the years trying to find help. I've gone to outpatient programs that met 3 nights a week. I've done 28-day programs, secular programs. I've done year-long programs, but I never did those for me. And I did them for other people because I didn't want to change. For some reason, the life I was living was ingrained in me, and every time I thought about walking away from it, it scared me. And my mother used to tell me a lot of times, when I would have a good run of a few months, I would get arrested for something, DUI or just whatever. And my mother used to call it self-sabotage. I didn't like my life going good, that I did it to myself because I was used to being back where I was. Yeah. And I see it happen every day. I hear about it every day, just like you do. And it's a gut-wrenching, horrible place to live. And a lot of times, you wake up, you want to die. You wonder what good am I doing here?
There's something, you're not doing this, but there's something I kind of wanted to grab a hold of real quick. Working in recovery, dealing with people in recovery a lot, there seems to be this, and it's promoted in a lot of 12-step, type mentality. It's like this separation where there's people that do drugs over here and there's people that drink, right? And almost when you're telling your story, I mean, the drugs take you down faster and harder than alcohol. Yeah. So you almost got to be like, drugs weren't a main part of my story. I was a drinker, and you're almost in a way of like apologizing that you're not apologizing. No, you know what I'm saying? You're kind of like,
I get you.
You're trying to say, but let me tell you something. Alcohol is the worst, my friend. In my opinion, it is the absolute worst. In my story, I went to a medical detox. It took 14 days to get me off of alcohol.
Right.
I drank for 3.5 years, probably straight. It was liquor every day.
Right.
And let me tell you something. When I got out of there, the only thing I wanted to do was drugs because I was scared of alcohol. What it had done to me, and I tell this story, and you know what? You don't have to agree with me. Nobody has to agree with me. But I've been through an opiate detox, and I've been through an alcohol detox. I will take an opiate detox any day of the week over an alcohol detox.
Well, I will share you this, having heard that. I've never been through an opiate detox.
Yeah.
I have been through several alcohol detoxes, and I wished death.
Yeah.
When I went to Hebron on February 27th, 2016, I had my last drink was January 18th, 2016. And it took me from January 18th, 5 weeks waiting to get into Hebron. And I was at Hebron for 22 weeks of a regular 10-week program and another 12-week extended. So 22 weeks total. And I had night sweats, restless legs, begged them for ibuprofen. I mean, it was the worst 5 months of my entire life.
Yeah.
And even after that, you know, it's I've never felt anything that physically just draining and mentally. And the mental part, it was just as hard as anything. And it was just something, because I did decades of, like you said, the alcohol. If I was awake, I was drinking. When I got up in the morning, I didn't go to the coffee pot. I went to the cooler. And I drank all day long until I decided to go to bed, whether it's 7 p.m. or 3 a.m. And if I slept 2 hours or 10 hours, when I got up, that was the first thing I did. That's all I knew. And it got to be where it was a chore.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a job to get up and drink.
Now, I don't want anybody that's listening or watching to get offended if I made that's just my opinion, and everybody has different experiences, right? I mean, I know detox from any drug is horrible, but in my personal experience, I mean, I never experienced anything like an alcohol detox. Yeah. You know, for those of you that don't know, alcohol and benzodiazepam, which is like Valium, Xanax, Ativan, that line of drugs, those are the only detoxes you could actually die from.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can have a seizure and die from just stopping those things cold turkey. That's why in the program that I work for, we can't take anybody that's physically dependent right off the street on alcohol or benzos. They have to go to a detox. But someone that's on cocaine or opiates, you can come and be sick.
Yeah,
because it won't kill you.
The times that I have detoxed from alcohol, it's every time with the exception of going to Hebron, it had to be medical. I went to a 28-day program, and like you said, I was in their detox program for 8 days.
Yeah.
On different whatever it was.
They actually have to give you benzos to come off of it, alcohol.
So in in a hospital room, in a hospital bed. But with Hebron, I'd had 5 months sober, but I was taking other things on my own to try to sleep at night and relax myself, and putting myself in a bad way by taking other things to try to be able to get some sleep at night. So yeah, there's no good detox.
No, absolutely not. And like I said, I'm not wanting to offend anybody in the listening audience, but in my experience, there's like this, and I think this is one of the downfalls of recovery, is like, in my opinion, okay, there's just like two camps. There's like, there's the people that do drugs and there's people who do alcohol. And you know what? Unfortunately, when I was in 12-step recovery down in Florida, this isn't to bash the program itself, but this was just an inherent fact. I went to NA meetings, which were Narcotics Anonymous meetings, and those people said, okay, I used to do heroin, and I don't do that anymore, but, I'm not an alcoholic, so I drink every weekend or every day. And then I'd go to Alcoholics Anonymous meetings, and those people would say, you know what, alcohol was my problem, but, I smoke pot, and I have pills from the doctor, and it just never made any sense to me. It's like, you're still doing drugs. Yeah. You're still altering come on, that's not recovery.
Every time I've been into a program that was very open for whether it be drugs or alcohol, we were, as far as the drinkers, we were kind of the minority in those programs.
Yeah.
And the older people and the minority.
Yep.
I noticed that on, in several of the ones I attended. And that, to me, I did hear that mentality a lot. A lot of them would get out when I was a heroin addict. Well, I'm going to go have a beer when I get done, so.
Coming up on a hard break. How many seconds we got? Well, we got 30 seconds, okay. Sorry, Mike, the oldest 25-year-old, is trying to keep me on track. Little radio joke we got going on here with our board guy. Yes, Janice Miller, we are online now. Lisa, I want to talk to you soon about that situation, but yeah, Clay, we're gonna come back here in just a minute and we'll get back into your story, man.
Amen, brother.
All right. Feeling good?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, you're doing great.
Good, thanks.
I had a lapse in math, so a brain lapse. We're back at it, I think.
So I think when we come back, what I think we'll do is start talking a little bit like when you first, obviously things are bad, and when you first started to get sober, like some of that experience, like some of your first recovery experiences and things like that. I mean, you said that I did some of those things, but I think it'd be helpful to talk about, a little bit more detail about like some of the things you tried to do,
to get recovery.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
how old were you when you first
Yeah.
started trying?
Yeah. Okay.
And
We'll do that.
what that struggle's like, because a lot of our listening audience, they're ready to give up on people that have tried 5 places. So it'd be great to hear that you tried, and even though they didn't have long-lasting recovery at those moments, they all still part of your
Oh,
experience.
absolutely. Yeah, there were times. There were sober times, and there were times, but there again, it's having to make the decision to do it for yourself, and not do it for your wife or your mom or your kids.
I think that's how we'll segue into it. Everybody's listening to our conversation right now on Facebook, but the radio can't hear us. But I'll say that you said that you went to a lot of places before you were ready to do it for yourself. But tell us a little bit about what that was like. Navigating those things.
Yeah. Okay. A lot of it involved some court-ordered stuff, and some of it was wife begging, mother begging. But yeah. We can definitely touch on that.
How old were you when you first started trying to get sobriety?
I really didn't try until after my children were born, and I think that's when I really started giving it an effect. My marriage had fallen apart, children were born, and so it was probably late 20s, mid-late 20s. My children were born when I was around 24, and so my wife left me, and after that's when I started trying a little bit, and you started seeing there was hope. But then it was really in my 30s where I was really trying. I knew there was a problem. Ignore it. Try a little bit. Ignore it.
It's a family-owned and operated gun shop with a great selection of rifles.
You're doing great though, man.
I'm glad. It's like I said. It's
You feel comfortable in here? It's different than talking in front of thousands of people.
It's different than holding a microphone and standing up in front of a crowd of thousands, or even in front of a church.
Yeah.
Minute 30.
Okay.
I've got to do. Me and Rob have been asked to do a couple of testimonies for a couple of local Sunday school classes from elderly people and stuff. So, those are the kind you just kind of sit down in front of a group. And,
Yeah, sure.
And we're overwhelmed by the selection of greenery, flowers, vines, conifers, hanging baskets, and more. Then the garden goddess asked what they wished for.
I want my home to have the best looking yard in the neighborhood.
Can you see some of the... I'll let you know if someone asks you a question or something like that, but you can see these are all... We got 11 people watching us live.
Yeah.
And then there's, some questions. And the guy that runs the office at Freedom Farm, Todd, the amazing Todd, he's like putting up, like, when I mentioned statistics, he put it up on the thing so people can look at the actual report. He'll answer questions for people. Like, someone asked if we were online right now, and he's like, yeah, we're online. And later he'll tag you.
Gosh.
What's that?
I was just looking at one of the comments there of several people that use cocaine and heroin are now using kratom. That's not a substitute.
Yeah.
It is not a substitute.
15 seconds, y'all.
Amazing Todd. Yeah, amazing Todd.
Here we go in 5, 4, 3, 2.
We're back with Recovery Talk. I'm Jim Quigley. We got Clay Williams in the studio with us today. Recovery Talk's brought to you by Freedom Auto Tech. Freedom Auto Tech is the newest auto shop here in town, and they're ready to serve you all your auto repair needs. 828-355-4434 is the number to call if you need some work on your car. 828-355-4434. 828-262-1567 is the number to call if you want to be a part of the show. You got a question for me or Clay, go ahead and give us a call if you want to just say hey. 828-262-1567. We had a question come in, Clay, and we both have an opinion. We were actually literally talking about this, Melissa, before we came in here. You asked about kratom. People that are users of cocaine, heroin, or meth, and now they take kratom because it's legal, and they don't see it as a drug or addiction, but you have an addictive behavior or dependency on it. In my opinion, it is. Your opinion is the opinion I share, and it's all we got is opinions. I'm going to tell you right now, the FDA has gotten a hold of kratom.
Absolutely.
You can bet that it's going to be illegal soon enough. It's just one of those things similar to bath salts, similar to spice, that is just currently right now not illegal, so people are able to buy it and use it. The program I work for, we just had a group of about 7 people caught up in a kratom situation. We're still not done. We've sent 3. We have to actually literally send urine samples to a lab and pay $75 per sample to get this stuff tested, because they don't even have a test for it like the 12-panel test that we have. So we have to send out urine. It's very expensive. But yes, it is widely abused. Clay, the program that he went through up here called Hebron Colony, they had a big incident with it recently, where many guys were dismissed for it.
Got several guys dismissed, and even had I believe it was, you don't like to denigrate. The program saved my life, but, they did have guys that got into that, and even a staff member that was suspected of it, and basically cut ties. And it's just like you said, the FDA is going to step in, and it's no better than anything else you can find. It was just easily accessible, and drug addicts find a way to do things.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're some of the most intelligent people in the world.
Yep. And, this goes in the same vein that we're talking about, like, this whole separation, I mean, that's where that alcohol and drug separation comes from. It's a substance you're ingesting, right?
Oh, yeah.
To abuse, to escape reality. I mean,
it's no different. It's just easier to get.
Yeah.
I mean,
alcohol is super easy to get.
I mean, that's
as we all
it.
know.
I mean, you walk around, if you're not of age and you can't find an ID that looks like you that your buddy carries, then you go sit down and find the guy sitting outside waiting to go in the store. You say, "Hey man, I'll buy yours if you'll buy mine."
Yeah.
And it's too easy.
Yeah.
But that's the world we live in.
It is. It is. But back to your story, man. So I was asking off air during the commercial break. Tell the audience, like, do you want to share your age right now? I mean, you're not
46.
46 years old. So you first started to try to get sober. Your recovery journey started in your mid-20s.
Mid to late 20s. Like I say, my wife, I've been married 3 times. I have 2 children. They're both with my first wife. And when I met her, we did drugs and things like that together. When she got pregnant, we had our children. I was not ready to change, and she was, and so she left me when my daughter was barely 4 months old, and my son was a little over a year. And it was just at that time I went, and spent some time with my mom, and actually ended up getting my first DUI. And I went to a program down in Fort Myers, Florida, Teen Challenge. So that's where it kind of started. And even there, I felt like I was being thumped in the back of the head with a Bible.
Yeah.
Somebody had a Bible taped to a baseball bat and just hit me. And it's a year-long program. I got myself kicked out in 5 months, but I learned a lot.
Yeah.
And you take in a lot, but in the back of your mind, you can still go back and do that life. You just got to make a few changes.
Right.
And so that's what you do. You go back, and then you get in trouble again. Or then something else happens. I get remarried. Somebody says, "Man, you're drinking way too much." And you go, "Well, okay, insurance will cover it. I'll go over here to this 3-night-a-week program, outpatient." Things like that started happening in my late 20s, early 30s. And like I said, at that point, I had already gotten my first and second DUI back-to-back within 9 months of each other. So I knew you even within, you can see something evolving.
Right.
And you know it. I knew it. And I would tell people outright, I need help. And at that point, it's what avenue do you take? But even though I was being begged to do it, I was never doing it for myself. I was doing it for other people, and it evolved into a 28-day program, a secular program, in a cabin up in the hills. And that was like a vacation where I was really taught to blame everybody else for my problem, looking back on it now. Because I walked out there going, "Man, dang it, Mom."
Was it one of those expensive places?
Oh my God, probably cost about $10,000. I hate to say that.
I still hold a personal resentment because I went through programs, but I never got to go to a posh, expensive place.
Oh, it was a $10,000, and it was a cabin out in the hills, and we ate good, and we exercised and went on hikes, and you met people that was cool, and you thought, "Man, this is great. I ain't never in my life."
Because it is great.
Yeah, exactly. $10,000 for me to go on a vacation, and the first thing I did was stop at the nearest gas station, and you right back on the run. But that's like I said, it goes back to not doing it for myself.
Right.
And even though I was recognizing and learning things about myself and
Sure.
about addiction.
Sure.
I mean, I became a expert on addiction, whether it be alcohol or whatever else. You know, it just, you see it, you meet people, you learn, you listen to conferences and people talk, and you go to meetings and you hear things, and you learn tricks of the trade, I'm sure you know as well, and you start learning how to do things. And you know, but all that was a mindset, and it was my mindset at the time that all I needed to do was appease people to keep continuing. And I thought every time I came out of those, I could come back as a social drinker. That was my biggest thing, is I could come back. I dabbled in this and that, but I could always come back, and I can drink on weekends, or I can only drink on Friday and Saturday, or I can only go out and have one drink. But you know, you start making excuses for yourself at that point, and then it weighed on my mind what I was doing. My children got to where my children wouldn't talk to me, and they would beg me, please get help. And I think where I took it serious one time, and this is probably one of and it didn't even stop my addiction to alcohol, to be honest with you, but it was one of the lowest points of my life. I got a DUI one night at 9 o'clock coming back from Panama City, Florida to Dothan, Alabama, with my 14-year-old or 13 or 14-year-old son in the car.
Oh, child endangerment.
And I actually got a sheriff. He handcuffed me once he got me out of the truck. He knew what was going on, and he unhandcuffed me and let me go talk to my son. He was really good. He let me call. My mother and stepfather came and got the vehicle and picked him up, and he let me, you know, go talk to him without handcuffs on. And I hugged him. But that boy wouldn't talk to me for a year and a half. You know, and who would blame him? It wasn't at that point. You know, what do you do?
Yeah.
And I went through a program after that, and it was a year long, and I did the whole year long program. And even at that point, there again, I was changing my life, and I felt good. I came out, I did that program, I came out sober, but I straightly, you know, went right into a divorce 2 months after that program. And at that point, I lost a lot of care for myself and everything, and it was a hard time after that.
Well, I wanted you to go back and tell a little bit, because a lot of our listening and watching audience right now, they have loved ones. Currently, people right now asking questions have loved ones that they're going through that. Like, you know, they've tried this and tried that, and there's been failure and failure. But you know what? Sometimes that's part of the journey, you know. Right. And you learn stuff all along the way. You know, you learned some stuff probably you didn't need to know, but you know, looking back on it all, this was all part of the journey too. You know, it was a journey that I look back on it and I wouldn't change anything about, because I've had the opportunity, even in times where I have failed afterwards. I have talked to a lot of people. I've given testimonies to a lot of people. We're coming up on hard break, 10 seconds. We're going to pick it up right where we're leaving off as soon as we come back. Stay with us. We'll be back in a minute. So, halfway done, my friend.
Oh, it's cool. It's cool. That, like I was saying, that DUI with my son in the car, that was, you know, and I even went back after that, you know, that's a memory you'll never, I remember that night like it was last night.
Buddy, that's tough, man.
It's a 5-minute break.
5-minute break? Yeah, okay.
Every split second of that night, I remember like it was yesterday. But then, you know, and it went on from there. After that, you know, I did okay for a while, but then I bought my own house and kind of thought, all right, build myself.
You're the man now.
I built myself back up here, got a good job, bought my house, live alone, divorced now, and that's when I got my last DUI, and that's kind of what, and I don't tell that to a lot of people, and I don't mind now, because it's kind of what snowballed into me getting to Hebron, which was a whole, you know, me getting into landing in the mountains of Boone, North Carolina, at Hebron Colony was a God thing completely. I mean, we learned about it. My brother's a pastor in Gainesville, Florida, and I had just gotten a DUI. I told Brad, I said, I need to go somewhere, and I want to go to a faith-based program.
Look who's watching now.
President's not talking about it. No one's bringing it to his attention. President does have a general
and that's what facilitated the whole thing. And I called my brother. I said, you know, he said, have you found a place yet? I said, I've got it narrowed down to 3 to 5 places. And he said, is any of them Hebron? And I said, let me Google that. No, I said, it's not that. He said, well, I got a guy who goes to my church who used to be the mailman at a place at Hebron. And I looked it up, and then it was just like, just washed over me. That's where I'm going.
Nice. So, Rob, start paying attention, because you're going to come on here soon.
Yeah, Rob, you got work to do. What are you doing watching this
show? I didn't even think of that.
I should have left you a bigger list of stuff to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're on the list now, Rob, too.
Out in the forest, can you see this?
Jamie Henson.
Yeah, Jamie.
And this. And this. But now
So how's
is
your
the moment
young'uns?
you see that.
Phoebe is anytime, he said. Phoebe is doing fantastic. She's 3 in May. She turned 3, and then my wife is this last Monday she was 35 weeks with our son.
Okay. That's what I was kind of wondering about.
Yeah, we go tomorrow to talk to the doctor about what to think, because she's small. You've seen her; she's tiny,
Right.
and there may be a possibility of an early C-section,
Right.
but we don't know. We'll find out some stuff tomorrow. Or
Good.
that's where it's cool because that's where my wife works.
Yeah.
She's a nurse in the birthing center.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay, I didn't
all
know
the
that.
doctors she works with, the whole Harmony Center, I mean, they're all her friends. So we feel like we're in a really good spot with all of it, and they're going to guide us because, we're both, I'm 42, and she's, I'm not allowed to say her name, but she, her age, but she is categorized as a high-risk pregnancy because she's not 20 or in her 20s.
Right.
She's in her 30s. I'm not gonna
Yeah, that's all good. It's all good.
So
You're the thin ice you're walking on. So.
yeah.
You're already you
Well,
stuck a
it's
foot
kind
out
of
there.
if there's all kinds of things going on. I know this, but my wife is from the Philippines. I married a girl
Oh, wow.
from the Philippines.
Okay.
So people look at me and they always think that I got one of these real young. Like you got one of them girls off the internet real young. I'm like, no, I didn't.
You got a mail order.
My wife and I are not that far apart in age.
Right.
And yeah, watch it. My mom's going, watch out. So my wife's working right now. Actually, she had to work this morning. But yeah, that's usually people's first thoughts. Oh, you've got to go. I'm like, look, it's actually a very good situation.
Right. Yeah.
October, we're married 5 years. So
Wow.
Well, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, I know I see y'all every Sunday over here.
Yeah.
Sitting over here in y'all's little spot.
our spot
Yeah.
over by
Well,
the
we have
guy.
our spot right there in the
You
center
do.
section. Of
Your spot is right there.
second row.
Yeah.
Center section, second row. So I had been. That was this past Sunday was the first time I've been there. I was on vacation down in Panama City, so I'd missed 2 Sundays in a row, and then had to work one. I think that's the first time I've been in a month. And
Yeah, I hadn't seen you in a
missed it.
while.
Scott reached over there and grabbed me and said, "Where you been?"
Yeah. I saw that,
I said,
actually.
I'm sorry. I've been on vacation.
I'm trying to get him on the show here one day.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
That would be great.
Yeah. I told him get ready. He looked at me like
30 seconds, guys.
we're 30 seconds away.
Mhm.
Sunshine this afternoon. Dropping to the upper 40s overnight tonight, so the great weather hangs on. Near 70 tomorrow with sunshine. Little to no chance of rain for the weekend. We're still in the low 70s on Saturday. May get a pop-up shower to return by
All
Sunday.
right, 10 seconds.
From Severe Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Keith Monday for High Country Radio.
5, 4, 3, 2.
And 96.5 FM.
Welcome back to Recovery Talk. This show is really here to try to bring hope and help for the hurting. That's the description of our show. Or if you go on Facebook, see it says Recovery Talk, Hope and Help for the Hurting. And like we were saying before, everybody seems to be in some way affected by substance abuse. Justin, who's been on the show quite a few times, that works here at the station, he was telling a story about how his mom's never even smoked a cigarette in her life, and here she's been affected dramatically from substance abuse. And that was the reason why I wanted you to tell, and this is where we left off, a little bit about your experience, because some of the things that a lot of people want to know is about the whole tough love thing, and we haven't really got into those details, but I always encourage people along the lines of, okay, I understand that they've been to programs and they've failed, okay? Don't help them live their life financially and whatnot when they're not trying to get help.
Right.
But help them if they want to try to get help.
Sure.
And I understand there's a lot of failure sometimes, and sometimes there isn't. I had success and then major failure, and then attempts at success for a couple years, and then finally got on board. I always encourage parents, like, if they want to get help, you know, I don't see a problem if you're able to point them and help them get help.
Sure, and I was like you're talking about the tough love. I mean, I've had, you know, family, ex-wives, you know, offer, I mean, threaten, you know, I'll disown you, I'll divorce you, I'll do whatever unless you get help. You know, and at those times I reached out for help, but then again, it was to appease somebody. And so there were times where it came to, look, I'm just gonna cut you off.
Yeah.
And at that point, then you kind of go, whoa, this has been my mainstay. And then you start almost taking a different look at it and a different approach. And you know, even especially when I was talking before about my getting arrested there with my son and him seeing that. And that cleaned me up for probably close to a year and a half, which was the longest stint of sobriety I'd ever had in my life. And but still, I had worked myself into a position and gained some independence. I was single. I'd bought a new house, had a new job. All right, I've earned all this. I've worked hard. I get to celebrate.
Yeah.
Knowing in the back of my mind, I'm not that kind of guy that can just celebrate with a cocktail and a steak dinner.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it goes right back within 2 days. I was right back where I was. Hiding it from everybody, sneaking into church, you know, sitting in the back row. Mom asked me, you weren't at church? Oh, yeah, I was there. I just didn't sit with you.
Yeah.
You know, and things of that nature. But you
didn't
know,
want her to smell it coming
oh
through your
my
pores.
gosh, you know, you got it, because you could say, oh, why don't I quit drinking at 2? It should be out of my system now. Man, you can smell me coming for days.
Yeah.
You know, when you drink till you fall asleep, but it just goes back to like what you were saying before. I mean, you just, at what point, where do you hit a point to where, and that we all have different ones. I mean, everybody talks about that bottom, that rock bottom that somebody's got to hit, and I hear about that all the time, and that's different for everybody. I mean,
it is.
It's a different emotional state. It's a different physical state.
I've literally had people on the phone and like, man, parents, like, you know, they've said to me, people keep saying rock bottom. I mean, how much worse has this got to get here? And I'm like, you know, I wish I had that answer for you.
Absolutely. Know? You hear about it. Well, he's had 5 DUIs. He never can get out of bed. You know, I lost an ex-stepdad just a couple weeks ago. The man was a hard drinker, drinking, you know, a half gallon every day or every other day for 40 years, and he just died at age 76. That's a young age nowadays.
Yeah, it is.
And, you know, at what point do you look at him and say, you know, where is it worth it? You know, and where is his rock bottom?
Right.
You know, never once got a DUI. I've had how many DUIs in my life, and you always look at other people. Why can't I drive around? You know, and not get one? And you make excuses. But you know, like you say, there's a point. Like you were saying, I mean, you try. I talked to different counselors, just made appointments. I talked to hypnotherapists. I talked to all kind of people. Just, you know, what do I do? I've been to 7 different programs and 4 detoxes. I've done I've done 28 days in a program. I've done a year in a program. It's not working. What the heck is wrong with
3
you?
marriages,
Yeah,
2 kids that don't want to talk to you.
And you know, at that point, you know, they'll even call. I go around for a homecoming or a graduation. Well, Dad's drunk again. I can smell it.
Yeah.
You know, at that point, you know, you never get a call from them again. And where is that bottom?
Yeah.
And it's for everybody, it's different. And for some people, it's hard to find. I see and I get calls and I hear stories just like you do. My phone rings and I get text messages and stuff like that all the time.
Yeah.
People asking me, you know, where did you hit rock bottom? And I'm thinking, well, I hit it here. You know, and maybe it was a span of time. But you know, at that point, you look back and you know, I had, after my last arrest, you know, when I decided to get help and go to Hebron, it was like I laid in a jail cell for about 14 hours. When I got there was 1 guy in there, and before I left, there was 14. And all of them, all I could hear was, well, I was in here last week, or I was in here 2 months ago.
Yeah.
Or, you know, I've been running from them, they finally caught me. You know, and I'm thinking, what am I doing wrong here? You know, there's got to be a different way. And in fact, in the back of my mind, with everything I had been through and all the programs and my belief system that I still kept in the back of my heart, in the back of my mind, I know there is a better way.
Yeah.
You know it.
Right.
And it's just a matter of, do you want it? At what point do you hit, I mean, there's a rock bottom. At what point do you want a better life? At what point are you willing to go out and do something to get that?
What you just said is a lot of times kind of like, you know, if you were to take the first 3 steps in 12-step programs, you know, the admission, and basically I try to explain to people, it's like when you finally get to a point to where you're able to tell yourself, I can't live life, and I know for a fact you can learn to live life because there's other people doing it.
Absolutely.
And there's a better way.
Yeah.
You really get to a point where you're finally ready to learn.
Mm-hmm.
That's the humility you need, you know?
Oh, the old cliche hearing you say, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Yep.
I mean, that has so much literal truth to it.
Sure.
I mean, like I was telling you before, it may have been in a break or something, but, you know, when you wake up and the first thing you grab instead of coffee is a drink and you go to bed and that's what you do all day, it becomes a chore, it becomes a job. And at what point, and like you said, I was sick of it, but I did it. You know, and at what point are you literally sick?
Mm-hmm.
You know, getting up every day and being sick and tired.
Yeah.
And at what, and where is that point? And you know, it just, I know where I finally hit it, you know, and that's kind of when the whole thing kind of started coming around for me, and a light bulb kind of started flickering.
So there's wise Todd. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. That sounds like Confucius or something, Todd.
Confucius.
That's awesome, though. That's awesome, though.
Confucius say.
So we're there, like, to like the what happened. You were in jail. You got out. You tell me a little bit on the break that you were looking at some programs, and then you said a brother.
I have a brother, my younger brother. He's 4 years younger than me, and he dealt with addiction in his own way with prescription medications and everything, running back and forth to Mexico to the pharmaceuticals down there.
He was serious.
Yes, he was under 7 felony charges. And
you can bring 3 months supply back with you every
what
time.
What are you talking about? I've been down there with him a couple times.
Yeah.
And we've been questioned.
You go to those pharmacies that give you the laminated list,
yes,
right?
Sir. And we have been detained and questioned for hours on end in Mexico, on the Mexican side of the border.
Todd said it is Confucius. Sorry.
So it's one of those, you know, and now he went through Teen Challenge and got saved in Teen Challenge and went to seminary, is married with 4 kids, has been a pastor in Gainesville, Florida now for 18 years.
Wow.
Just got a senior pastor of a new growing church, the Chapel in Gainesville, Florida. And so I look to him a lot.
Yeah.
Even though he's my younger brother, we went through those same things, and you see that, and you know, because he would, even in the midst of all my stuff, you know, he was there.
Yeah.
I could call him. You know, he may talk hard to me. He'd tell me harsh truths, but he was there. You know, always there. He never neglected me. There was 2 people in my life that I could always count on, and that was my mother and my brother. You know, so when I hit that point, you know, I called him. I had gotten arrested again, and I called him, or he actually called me, and he said, or what are you thinking about doing? I said, I'm ready to go to a program and be serious and do this. And I said, I have a list of 3 to 5. And he said, is Hebron calling on your list? And I said, no, it's not. And I said, let me Google it, and I'll call you back. And I Googled it, and I said, that looks pretty cool. I've never been up there. And I called him back. He said, well, let me tell you where I heard it from. And he said, I got a guy who goes to my church, and I was telling him about you because they had a men's meeting every day, and I was the subject of their prayer. And so that touches you in a way when you're ready. To me, I was ready.
Absolutely.
And that touched me. And my brother said, you know, this guy comes to my church, and he was a mail carrier for the mail route where Hebron Colony was, and he speaks very highly. And I deleted the list I had because I prayed about it that night, and it was hard for me to pray. At that point, I had forgotten how to pray, and I just had a whitewash over my body and soul, and it was like, it was like God set that in motion, and that's where I was with it, and that's why I ended up in Boone, North Carolina.
You know, I got a group of, you know, older guys that I meet with on a regular basis, and we talk about life and God and things like that, and you know, they make the comment all the time. They're like, you know, when we're seeing people come out of bondage, whether it be addiction or other kinds of bondage, they're always saying, you know, I know that we're going to find out the people one day, the people are praying for them. And that does, man. I've been impacted in a great deal. For those of you listening out there, watching, when you're praying, sometimes it feels like almost hopeless. Like, you know, it's not, but keep praying, because it's not a last resort to pray. It's a first resort. It's where you first need to be going to. You don't know how those prayers are going to be answered. Sometimes it's a little frustrating, but keep praying.
My mom can vouch for that. She is a praying woman, and I believe her prayers and my brother's prayers, I believe those are the things that have really kept me.
Couple shout outs. My cousin my buddy Joe. Joe, a huge part of my recovery story. I don't know if he knows that. Andrew, what's up, man? We're going to be back here in just a minute. Back with Clay. We're going to finish up this story. See you in a minute.
Living in a small community like
It's our final stretch after this.
Cool. I just got
You're doing great, man.
I just got a text message from my landlord. She's listening.
Is it? Awesome.
They're good folks. They go to church with R.D. Hodges. Grace Berry. She's married to John Berry, the accountant's son, and they manage the little apartment place where a little inn I live in right off 321 between here and Blowing Rock.
Okay.
A little single apartment while I'm waiting to get my fiance and everything over here. And so they're good folks. They go to a little church. She just texted me. I didn't know she would be listening. But
You're famous now, man.
yeah, hey, yeah. What do you say? What do you say? I'm a local businessman, business owner. I got to leave here and go sign a contract for some insurance and get a bank account. I got too much going on.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time.
Oh man, no, it's great. I don't mind doing it all. I don't mind doing it all. It was a nervous excitement coming in. I've done testimonies all over, but I've never done radio. So this is actually kind of
Cool, huh?
yeah. It's a little.
Dude, I really love doing this.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So-
For sure.
A minute long in this break.
Countdown to
A
incredible
minute left.
fall weather. Cool mountain air mornings. Scare Mother Nature away this fall by supporting the new Carhartt Rain Defender.
I don't know,
sweatshirt and
what kind of,
durable
the
sandstone
listening audience on the radio. I don't know if, they're liking it, but I've been told that if they're not getting complaints, we're doing pretty good.
Well, that's what you want to hear.
Yeah, so they let us keep going.
That's
so.
the nature of a good business. That's what I like. When I'm not getting complaints.
30 seconds.
30 seconds.
Affordable pricing in the high country. Play hard, play fair, shop local,
We'll have like
shop smart,
11, 12 minutes, something like that.
Okay.
I don't know.
Just kind of let me know where you want to go, what you want to do.
Yeah.
All right, 10 seconds.
West Jefferson, or the brand new store located in Tanger Outlets in Blowing Rock.
5,
Thanks for being
4,
great fans
3,
of Moe's Boots, your
2.
outdoor gear headquarters. Go Mountaineers!
Welcome back to Recovery Talk. Jim Quigley here, your host, and with Clay Williams, who's been sharing his story. We're on the final stretch now. Recovery Talk's brought to you by Freedom Auto Tech. Freedom Auto Tech is the newest auto shop here in town. We're ready to take care of that check engine light for you. 828-355-4434. That's 828-355-4434. 828-262-1567 is the number to call. We don't normally have people call in, so it's okay, though. It's okay. You know what? We have a problem with Facebook. Can't hear the talk, the people that call in. Maybe one day we'll figure that out.
Where's y'all's new shop located?
It's I don't know the address, but it's next to the Boone Dive Shop. If you know anything about Boone, it's over there next to the Boone Dive Shop. You know what? For those of you in the listening audience, if you wanted to call the station and tell them if you appreciate the show, that would be great. We were just talking off air, and I was like, I don't know the listening audience if they're appreciating the show. We're not getting any complaints,
Yeah,
so that's
the biggest
good.
thing. No complaints.
So no complaints, but really loved having you on the show today, Clay. And let's land this thing. So you came up to Hebron. You're ready now. You've gotten to that point of humility to where there's a better life out there, and you don't know how to live that life. So you're ready to learn, as Confucius and Todd says. When the student is ready, the teacher appeared. So. Yeah. So that's been your story. You came up to Hebron, and the teacher appeared. Tell us about that.
This is actually the best part to me of the story, because it's my story and because I've lived it. I got to Hebron February 27th. A guy from Alabama, lived down in Alabama, Dothan, Mobile, in the Panama City Beach area. Warm weather, no mountains, no nothing. And there was about 2 or 3 inches of snow on the ground when I got here. And I asked, my mother and stepfather had brought me up here and helped get me situated. And I asked them when they were leaving, I was like, I don't know where I'm at, and I'm not sure what I'm doing here. Yeah. But we're going to go with it. And later that week, you start, the Hebron has a setup to where you go to chapels in the morning and certain days in the evening. Mm-hmm. And I went down there one day before chapel started. And it was cold outside, and also all the windows were closed, and it was warm in the chapel. They had the heaters going. And a guy that I know, I had asked him to put on some music, and he left somewhere and put some music on up in the loft, and I was just standing there listening to music with my eyes closed, and I was praying. And I was just praying for God to give me some direction to take some of this burden off me.
Yeah.
And at that point, there was a wind that just rushed. I mean, I felt like it blew my hair. And I literally sat down on the pew behind me, and I stopped and I opened my eyes and I looked around to make sure somebody hadn't come in and opened a window, because it was windy and cold outside, and it was warm in that chapel, and I had a cold breeze. And at that point, it's just like God saying, I'm listening and I'm here. And everything just, it gives me chills talking about it. But it was, that was a point to where almost the dial turned and everything clicked.
Mm.
You know, everything fell into place. Sure, it's like I was telling somebody one day, sure, there's still bad days. Just because you got saved or you got, recovery or whatever you want to call it, there's still bad days. But, my worst day walking in recovery, especially with the Lord, is a million times better than my best day as an addict or an alcoholic.
And for those listening and watching, this trying to get this new way of life started, not necessarily by your wanting to start it, but by through court and stuff like that, in your mid-20s.
Yeah.
And now you're how old when this?
46.
No, I mean when this first happened.
When this first happened, I was 43.
43 years old.
Well, 43.
So hang in there, folks. If you got someone, here you got 20 years later, almost.
Yeah, and it does. I mean,
if I clicked.
Don't ever give up, because it does. I mean, it will click, and I don't care. I'll help you promote it. I don't care whether you get it through AA, Celebrate Recovery, a faith-based program, or where. If you find it, you find it. If it clicks, it clicks. I'm happy for you. Mine just happened to be me recentering my life around and founding it on God, and let that be the foundation of where I was going to start everything from.
Right.
And that's where it went from there. And I had good and bad days at Hebron. Everybody there does.
Yeah.
But when I finished up, my kids were both starting school. I had done so much, went and spent Christmas with them, and just recreated that relationship, and it was just flourishing. And it is to this day. I got a text message from my daughter yesterday. Just got up here to La Monroe to school, to college, loving it, miss you, Dad, I want to come to the mountains. Just those things I never had those before, because I didn't allow them to be a part of my life, just because alcohol is more important.
Right.
And looking back on that, it makes me mad at myself, but it makes me thankful that I have family, but most of all, I have a God who never gave up on me. And everybody out there, you have that same God.
Yeah.
Who doesn't give up on any of us. We give up on him. And from there, I went on to become a volunteer staff member at Hebron for a while. And even then, I left Hebron looking for a little direction, and I went to different places. And it wasn't where God wanted me. And there were times where I had bad days where I would walk into a grocery store and you had to steer away from certain aisles, saying,
sure,
this day ain't this bad. It ain't that bad.
Right.
We'll go get us a can of chicken soup or whatever, and we'll, go get us a tea and go sit down and watch something. But it's never, if it is that bad, I got people I can call. I have people in my life lined up that I could call. I have friends, I have relatives, I have pastors.
Yeah.
I have friends, like I said, that people that I know I can call if I'm having that bad of a day. They can say, hey, it's okay. And those are things you can't take away, and those are things we all need.
One of the sure signs in my experience when it has clicked and when they're now motivated to live a sober life is the service that comes almost naturally, organically. Not that you're forced to be serving, but you're like, you know what? Something amazing's happened to me, and I want to try to make it available for other people. And that happened to you.
And sometimes it's a magnetism. I mean, I get calls from guys who have left Hebron and are troubled. Maybe not even fallen away, but are troubled and are on the edge. And I get calls who have fallen away. Guys who have gone to jail. Just, hey, can you write me a letter of encouragement? I get those all the time. And it's like you said, we don't ask for it. But it's a blessing to be able to do it, knowing that you're in a position where somebody can reach out to you and you can share something with them that will give them hope and may give them hope and hopefully will.
Yeah.
And those are the things that you can't, to me, what I've tried to understand is at first you don't want those to happen because you're scared and nervous.
Yeah.
But it's almost, people used to ask me, substitute in for my small group. I can't be there. I'd be like, I don't want to do it. But then when I left, I was the one blessed, bigger than anybody.
Yeah.
Being able to answer questions for guys and talk them through something and help them and just give them your experience and hope that gives them hope and encouragement. And those are things now that you look at and go, okay, this is part of my plan, and part of God's plan for my life. And those are the things you have to learn. You do learn to appreciate them.
Absolutely. And now we're reconciled with the kids.
Oh my gosh, I just went and spent a week's vacation down in Panama City Beach with them, riding wave runners and throwing them off and tossing them all around the lake, and then sent them back to college to go earn, just make, wonderful. And I was blessed because I got two wonderful kids that saw everything I went through and are on different paths than I was. And for me, if that's what that took to have two kids that are, to me, the best children in the world,
yeah,
and that trust God and love God and go to church. And I sent two kids off to college that go to church on their own on Sundays. I didn't do that.
Awesome.
And so to have that is one of the biggest blessings. I'm about to cry talking about it, but it's one of the biggest blessings that
It's all right, no one can see you. Just don't turn to the camera.
But it's truly amazing what God has done in my life. But it took me finally giving in.
Yeah.
And hitting that point, and I had to understand that. And
so getting close to 3 years of sobriety.
Yeah.
You've made like me. You haven't left the mountains.
No, I actually left here and came back. I felt.
Oh, okay.
I left here and actually moved back home, did some work back home, some farming. Then I left and worked in Nashville for a little while, and I came over here for Labor Day weekend homecoming out at Hebron, and prayed and talked to Danny Henley, a past
Who
guest
was on
of
the show,
yours,
not
and
too
Rob,
bad.
who's a future guest of yours.
Yeah.
And felt like this is where God wanted me, and it's amazing what God has done in the amount of time since I've been back. So it's been almost a year. So
You mentioned it a little bit, but you're engaged. So.
I am engaged. My fiance lives over in Nashville.
Did you say hi to her yet if she's watching?
Hi, darling? That's what I call her. I call her darling.
All right.
So yeah. So, and I think she was. She sent a text a while ago too. So yeah, I mean, it's just amazing. I'm a local business owner, and I'm involved in a lot of things, and engaged, trying to get her over here, hopefully by Christmas, and it's just amazing.
Working with a fellow brother in recovery, like you mentioned, is going to be on the show soon. He's supposed to be working right now, but he's actually watching the show.
He should be at work, but he's watching the show.
We're docking your pay. Docking your pay, Rob.
It, man. You're docked an hour. What was it, 10:30 to 11:30? You're docked, buddy.
Yeah.
But yeah, hopefully he'll be on the show, and it's a great friendship him and I have developed, through Hebron and beyond, and it's just been the relationships I've developed with people like you and Danny Henley, and just people that I've met through church, and it's just been amazing transformation in my life, what the recovery in mine through my Savior has done for me. But anybody can reach out and get that.
Awesome, man. Well, brother, thanks so much, man. I've enjoyed this tremendously because, like I said, I know you, but hadn't known you this well. So everybody, will be back again next Thursday. Love to have you part of the show. Pass this video around. We'll talk to you later. All right, man. That was great.
Yeah, that's cool.
Great show.
Let me see that.
Oh, yeah. You gotta post it.